You got no idea what you're holding, kid. Eli's hand trembled as Marcus Kane's eyes locked onto the black and silver ring, and the entire bar seemed to stop breathing. The teenager had walked in hoping for answers, maybe for a reward, but the look on Kane's face told him he'd just stepped into something far more dangerous than he'd ever imagined. Before we dive into what happens next, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and stick with me until the very end of this story, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see just how far this tale travels. Trust me, you won't believe where this goes. The ring hit the bar top with a dull clink, and every head in Murphy's Tavern turned toward the sound. Eli Davies stood there, 16 years old and looking like he'd been dragged through hell backwards. His jeans were torn at the knees, his hoodie stained with God knows what, and his sneakers were held together with duct tape. But his eyes, those eyes, were what caught Marcus Kane's attention. Clear, determined, stupid. I found this, Eli said, his voice cracking slightly. By the dumpster off Route 9. Figured someone might be looking for it. Kane didn't move from his corner booth, didn't blink, just stared at that ring like it was a ghost made solid. Big Tommy, all 300 pounds of him, was the first to break the silence. Kid, you got any idea where you are? A bar, Eli's voice went up at the end, making it a question. This ain't just a bar. Tommy stepped closer, his iron serpent's patch catching the dim light. This is our bar, and that, he pointed at the ring, that ain't something you just find. Eli's throat bobbed as he swallowed. Look, I don't want trouble. I just thought... You thought wrong. Snake Kane's sergeant at arms moved from the pool table cue stick still in hand. That ring's been missing 2 years. 2 years since Ricky Kane was wearing it, and Ricky Kane is 6 feet under. The words hung in the air like smoke. Kane finally stood. He was 6'3", broad-shouldered, with graying hair pulled back in a ponytail, and a scar that ran from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone. 47 years old, and every single one of them had been hard-earned. He moved slowly, deliberately, like a predator, deciding if something was prey or just a nuisance. Who sent you? Kane's voice was gravel mixed with whiskey. Nobody sent me. Eli's hands went up defensive. I swear I found it 2 days ago, in a trash can. I thought maybe there'd be a reward or something, I don't know. I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to walk into the Iron Serpent's clubhouse with my dead son's ring. Kane was close now, close enough that Eli could smell leather and motor oil and something darker underneath. That what you're telling me? Eli's eyes widened. Your son? I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The apology seemed to catch Kane off guard. His jaw tightened and something flickered across his face, pain, maybe, or memory. How'd you know to come here? Snake pressed, circling around Eli's other side. The inscription. Eli's words tumbled out fast. Inside the band. It says Iron Serpents and has an address. This address, I looked it up. I took 2 buses to get here. Kane picked up the ring, turning it over in his fingers. The silver was tarnished almost black, but he could still make out the serpent design and still see where Ricky's initials were carved on the inside. R.J.K., Richard, James Kane, dead at 23, courtesy of a rival club and a deal gone bad. You took 2 buses, Kane repeated slowly, to return a ring you found in the trash. Why? Eli shifted his weight, suddenly looking even younger than 16. Because it seemed important. And because he stopped. Because what? Because I know what it's like to lose something that matters. The words came out barely above a whisper. I figured whoever lost this, they'd want it back. Big Tommy laughed, but it wasn't a friendly sound. Kid's either the dumbest thing on 2 legs or he's running a game. No game, Eli insisted. I swear on everything. I just wanted to do the right thing. Kane studied him, really looked at him, saw the bruise fading on his left cheek, the way he held his ribs like they hurt, the hollowness in his eyes that came from too many nights with not enough food or sleep or hope. When'd you last eat? Kane asked. The question clearly surprised Eli. I what? When'd you last eat? It's a simple question. Yesterday, maybe. I had some crackers at the gas station. Kane turned to Rita, the bartender, who'd been with the club for 15 years. Get him a burger, fries, and a Coke. Kane, Snake started. I said get him food. Kane's voice left no room for argument. Rita nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. Sit, Kane ordered, gesturing to a bar stool. Eli sat looking like he expected the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Kane pulled up a stool across from him, the ring still in his palm. You gonna tell me why a 16-year-old kid is riding buses across county lines to return jewelry to bikers? The truth this time. That was the truth. The whole truth. Kane's eyes didn't waver. Where are your parents? Eli's face went carefully blank. Don't have any. Everybody's got parents. Had. My mom died when I was 8. Cancer. And your dad? Never met him. Mom said he split before I was born. Eli picked at a loose thread on his hoodie. My stepdad. He stopped again. Your stepdad what? The burger arrived and Eli stared at it like it was a mirage. His hand shook slightly as he picked it up. Eat, Kane said, then talk. Eli ate like he was afraid someone would take it away. 3 bites in, he slowed down enough to speak. My stepdad's a piece of work, drinks too much, gets mean when he drinks. I stayed as long as I could, but a couple weeks ago he came at me with a bottle and I just ran. Been on the road since. Where are you staying? Wherever I can, bus stations mostly, sometimes under bridges. Snake made a disgusted sound. So you're a runaway looking for a handout. That's what this is. No. Eli's voice went hard. I'm not looking for anything except to do something decent for once in my life. I thought maybe if I returned this, maybe that'd balance things out somehow. Maybe I'd feel like less of a screw-up. The honesty in those words hit Kane like a punch to the gut. He'd heard every lie, every con, every manipulation in his 25 years with the Iron Serpents. But this was just a kid trying to stay human in a world that kept trying to beat it out of him. The ring, Kane said slowly, was on my son's finger when he died. Medical examiner gave it back to me, and I wore it for 6 months before I couldn't stand it anymore. Reminded me too much of what I lost. So I threw it in a drawer, and then one night when I was too drunk to think straight, I threw the drawer's contents in the trash. Thought that'd make the pain stop. He laughed bitterly. Didn't work. I'm sorry, Eli said again, and Kane could hear that he meant it. You keep apologizing for things that ain't your fault. Kane's thumb traced the serpent on the ring. That's gonna get you killed in this world. Maybe, but I'd rather die sorry than die mean. The words settled over the bar like snow. Nobody spoke. Outside, a truck rumbled past its engine, fading into the distance. Finally, Big Tommy broke the silence. Kid's got guts, I'll give him that. Guts get you buried, Snake muttered, but there was less edge to his voice. Kane stood abruptly. Finish your food. We need to talk, in private. He walked toward the back room, and after a moment's hesitation, Eli followed, still clutching the burger. The office was small, cluttered with papers and maps and photographs. Kane shut the door and leaned against his desk, arms crossed. You understand what you walked into here, he asked. Not really, Eli admitted. I know you're a motorcycle club. I know you're probably not just the weekend riders. We're 1%ers. You know what that means. Eli shook his head. Means 99% of bikers are law-abiding citizens. We're the other 1%. We deal in things that make regular folks uncomfortable. Money protection information. Sometimes other things. We've got enemies. Lots of them. And that ring you found, it's a beacon. Anybody who's been paying attention knows Ricky's ring went missing. You show up with it, people are going to ask questions. Dangerous people. I didn't think, no you didn't, and that's the problem. Kane's voice softened slightly. But it's also what makes you different from most people who walk through that door. You acted on instinct, on decency. That's rare. So what happens now? Eli's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his fear. Now, Kane started, but the door burst open. Mitch, the club's youngest prospect, stood there, face pale. Kane, we got a problem. Dalton Crow just pulled up outside with 3 squad cars. Every muscle in Kane's body tensed. Crow, what's he want? Didn't say, but he looks pissed. Kane swore under his breath. Sheriff Dalton Crow was 42, ambitious and dirty as they came. He'd been on the Iron Serpent's payroll for years, but lately he'd been getting greedy, wanting more money, more control, more power. And he had a particular interest in anything that might give him leverage over the club, like, say, a dead man's ring showing up out of nowhere. Stay here, Kane told Eli. Don't come out no matter what you hear. But I said stay. Kane's tone left no room for argument. He walked back into the main bar where Crow was already pushing through the door flanked by two deputies. Crow was stocky with a beer gut hanging over his belt and a smirk that made Kane want to rearrange his face. Kane, Crow's voice was syrup over gravel. Heard you had an interesting visitor today. Don't know what you're talking about, Sheriff. No, 'cause I got a report that a teenage boy was seen entering this establishment about 30 minutes ago, matching the description of a runaway we've been looking for. Eli Davies, 16 years old, missing from his home in Baxter County. Kane's expression didn't change. A lot of people come through here, Sheriff. Can't keep track of them all. That's so. Crow walked further into the bar, his eyes scanning the room. See, here's the thing. This particular runaway might have found something that don't belong to him. Something valuable. And I got a reason to believe he brought it here. What kind of something? Snake asked, playing dumb. The kind that could cause a lot of trouble if it ends up in the wrong hands. Crow's eyes landed on Kane. Or should I say back in the wrong hands. Kane felt the weight of the ring in his pocket. He'd slipped it there when Mitch interrupted them, some instinct telling him to keep it hidden. You got a warrant, Sheriff? Big Tommy asked. Don't need one. I'm pursuing a runaway minor. That gives me authority to search any premises where he might be hiding. He ain't here, Kane said flatly. Then you won't mind if we look around. Crow gestured to his deputies. Boys. They started moving, checking behind the bar, looking in the bathrooms. Kane's jaw clenched. If they found Eli in his office, found something, one deputy called out. Kane's heart stopped, but the deputy wasn't coming from the office. He was holding up an empty beer bottle. This was under the booth there. Fresh, not even warm yet. So somebody had a beer, Snake said. This is a bar. People drink here. Minors don't, Crow said. But, that's contributing to the delinquency. I could shut you down right now, Kane. That bottle could have been there all day. Could have been, but I don't think so. Crow stepped closer to Kane, lowering his voice. I know he's here. I know he's got something of yours. And I know you're going to want to protect him because that's what you do. You collect strays. But this one's trouble. He's connected to things you don't understand. Enlighten me. Crow smiled, and it was ugly. The ring he found, it wasn't in no trash can by accident. It was placed there. A message. And now that message has been delivered whether you realize it or not. Message from who? From people who want to remind you that nothing stays buried forever. Not bodies, not secrets, and sure as hell not debts. Crow straightened up, speaking louder now. Tell you what, Kane. You produce the boy, and whatever he found, I'll forget about the violations here. We can all go home happy. And if I don't, then we do this the hard way. I get a real warrant. I bring in state police. I turn this place inside out and find every little illegal thing you got hiding here. And we both know there's plenty. Your choice. The bar was silent. Every iron serpent was watching Kane, waiting for his call. Kane thought about Eli, scared and alone in that office. Thought about Ricky, who'd been just 23 when he died because Kane hadn't protected him well enough. Thought about the code he'd lived by for 25 years. The club protects its own. But Eli wasn't club. Eli was nobody. Just a runaway kid who'd made the mistake of trying to do something good. I need a minute, Kane said. You got 30 seconds, Crow replied. Kane walked toward his office, every eye in the bar following him. He opened the door. Eli was standing by the desk looking terrified. I know what you heard. Kane kept his voice low. Listen to me carefully. That sheriff out there, he's bad news. He wants that ring, and he wants you. I don't know why yet, but I know it ain't good. So you got two choices. One, you walk out there, hand over the ring, let him take you back to your stepdad or wherever he's planning to take you. Two, you trust me. Trust you to what? To keep you alive. Kane pulled out the ring. This thing is more than what it looks like. Crow's interested in it, which means it's worth something to somebody. And that somebody is probably willing to do bad things to get it. If he takes you, you become leverage. You understand? Eli's face had gone pale. I don't understand any of this. I just wanted to return a ring. I know. And that was a brave kid. Stupid but brave. Now you got to be brave again and decide if you're going to let that sheriff take you or if you're going to let me handle this. How do I know? There's a back way out of here. Leads to an alley. You go through that door. He pointed. You run straight for about 50 yards. There's a storage unit, codes 1977. You hide there, you don't come out till I come get you. Don't answer for nobody else, you hear me? But what about you? What about... Time's up, Kane, Crow's voice boomed from the bar. Kane grabbed Eli's shoulder. Do you trust me or not? Eli looked at him, really looked at him. And in that moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. The way two people who've both been broken in similar ways can see each other clearly. Yeah, Eli said. I trust you. Then go, now. Eli ran for the back door. Kane waited until he heard it click shut, then took a deep breath and walked back into the bar. Crow was waiting, arms crossed. Well, boo. He ain't here, Kane said. You were wrong. Is that right? Crow's eyes narrowed. Then you won't mind if we check that office. Be my guest. The deputies searched the office thoroughly. Found nothing because there was nothing to find. When they came back, empty-handed, Crow's face had gone red. You're making a mistake, Kane. Wouldn't be my first. Kane's voice was ice. Now, unless you got actual business here, Sheriff, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave. You're bad for business. Crow stepped close enough that Kane could smell the coffee on his breath. This ain't over. That boy's gonna surface eventually. And when he does, I'll be waiting. And then we're gonna have a very different conversation about what you owe me. I don't owe you nothing that I ain't already paid. That's where you're wrong. Crow tapped Kane's chest with one finger. Your son's death, that wasn't random, Kane. That was a message, and you've been ignoring messages for too long. Time to start paying attention. He turned and walked out, his deputies following. The squad cars pulled away, leaving only the sound of their sirens fading into the distance. Snake was the first to speak. What the hell was that about? I don't know, Kane admitted, but we're gonna find out. Big Tommy moved to the window, watching to make sure Crow was really gone. Kid, get away. Yeah, Kane pulled out his phone. Mitch, you still got that contact at the county clerk's office. The one who owes you. Yeah, why? I need everything you can dig up on Eli Davies, and I mean everything, where he's from, who his family is, why a sheriff 2 counties over would care about a runaway kid and a dead man's ring. You really think they're connected? Rita asked. Kane looked at the ring still in his hand. Crow said this wasn't found by accident, said it was placed, which means somebody wanted me to have it back. Question is why? And why send a kid to deliver it? Snake added. Exactly. Kane closed his fist around the ring. Eli said he found it 2 days ago. Ricky's been dead 2 years, so where's this ring been all that time and who had it? Big Tommy's phone buzzed. He checked it and his expression darkened. Boss, we got another problem. Jimmy just checked in from the north route. Says there's been 3 unfamiliar vehicles cruising past the clubhouse in the last hour. Different plates, but all rental cars. Surveillance, Rita asked. Or worse. Kane's mind was racing. Lock it down. Nobody comes in or out without clearance. And somebody get eyes on that storage unit, but don't approach. If Eli's there, I don't want him spooked. The next hour moved like molasses. Kane paced his office, making calls, gathering information. Mitch came through with Eli's file, and what Kane read made his blood run cold. Eli Davies, born in Baxter County to Sarah Davies' single mother. Mother died of cancer when Eli was 8. Custody went to stepfather Michael Garrett. No father listed on birth certificate. Multiple visits from Child Protective Services over the years, but nothing ever stuck. 3 arrests for truancy, 2 for petty theft, 1 for assault charges dropped when victim didn't press charges. But it was the last note that caught Kane's attention. Subject of interest in ongoing investigation into trafficking ring operating out of Baxter County. Believed to have information, but unwilling to cooperate with authorities. Trafficking, Kane said aloud. Snake looked up from cleaning at his pistol. What? Eli's file says he was a subject of interest in a trafficking investigation. They think he knows something. Human trafficking, Rita's voice was sharp. Doesn't specify, but what else would it be? Kane threw the file on his desk. Crow mentioned Eli was connected to things I don't understand. Maybe that's what he meant. So what the kid's involved with traffickers? Big Tommy asked. No, but his stepdad might be. Or maybe Eli witnessed something. Either way, it makes him dangerous. Not to us, to whoever's running the operation. Snake stood up. And they sent him here with your son's ring because Because they want us involved, or maybe they want us out of the way. Kane's phone rang. It was an unknown number. He answered. Yeah, the voice on the other end was electronically distorted. You have something that belongs to me. Who is this? You don't need to know that. What you need to know is that the boy is mine, and the ring is mine. And you've got exactly 24 hours to deliver both, or things get very unpleasant for you and your club. You threatening me. I'm educating you. The ring is a key, Mr. Kane. Open something very valuable. The boy knows where. You keep them both. You're standing between me and something I've been looking for a very long time. That's not a position I'd recommend. And if I don't believe you, then watch the news at 11 tonight. I'll give you a preview of what happens to people who don't cooperate. The line went dead. Kane stared at his phone. What? Snake demanded. We got 24 hours to hand over Eli in the ring, or somebody's going to make an example of us. Who I am? Didn't say, but they mentioned it in the news at 11, said we should watch. They waited. The clock on the wall ticked past 9, then 10, then 10:30. At 10:55, Kane turned on the TV in the bar. The 11 o'clock news started with the usual weather sports local interest story. Then the anchor's face went serious. Breaking news tonight from Baxter County, where authorities have discovered a body in an abandoned warehouse on County Road 14. The victim has been identified as Michael Garrett, age 42. Police say Garrett died from multiple stab wounds and that they are treating this as a homicide. Garrett was the stepfather of Eli Davies, a teenage runaway who's been missing for 2 weeks. Authorities are asking anyone with information to. Kane shut off the TV. The bar was silent. They killed his stepdad, Rita whispered. They killed his stepdad and made sure we'd know about it. Kane's hands were shaking with rage. This is a message. This is what we do to people connected to the boy. They're telling us that protecting Eli puts a target on our backs. So what do? Mitch asked. Kane looked around the bar, at the men and women who'd followed him for decades, who'd bled with him, fought with him, survived with him. We protect him anyway, Kane said quietly, because that's what we do. We protect him anyway. The words hung in the air like a death sentence, and every person in that bar knew it. Snake slammed his hand on the pool table, hard enough to make the balls jump. You're serious? After what we just saw, they gutted that man and dumped him like trash. Kane. That's a promise, not a warning. I know what it is. Kane's voice was granite. And I'm telling you, we don't hand over a 16-year-old kid to people who carve up bodies for fun. Even if it means war, Big Tommy asked quietly. Especially then. Rita refilled Kane's glass without being asked, her hands steady despite everything. 20 years behind that bar had taught her when to talk and when to just pour. This was a pouring moment. They'll come for us, Mitch said, and his voice cracked on the last word. Kid was only 22 himself, barely older than Ricky had been. They'll come for all of us. Let 'em. Kane downed the whiskey in one swallow. Snake, how many we got in town right now? 15, maybe 20 if we call in the guys from the garage. Call 'em. I want every iron serpent within 50 miles here by dawn. And somebody get word to the charters in Milton and Riverside, tell 'em we might need backup. Kane. Rita's voice was careful. Maybe we should hear what the kid knows first, before we commit to dying for him. Kane looked at her, and something in his expression made her step back. We already committed the second I told him to run. You think they don't know that? You think they're not watching this place right now, counting how many of us there are, and where we're weak? He turned to face the whole room. Anybody who wants out, walk now. I won't hold it against you. But if you stay all the way. No half measures, no regrets. Nobody moved. Snake was the first to speak. Ride or die, brother. That's the oath. Ride or die, Big Tommy echoed. One by one, every person in that bar repeated it. Even Mitch, whose voice was stronger this time. Rita just nodded, her eyes wet, but her jaw set. Kane felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been sealed shut since the day they buried Ricky. Pride maybe, or just the recognition that he wasn't alone in this insanity. All right then, he grabbed his jacket. Tommy, you're with me. We're getting the kid. Rest of you fortify this place. Board up windows, set up watch rotations, and for God's sake, somebody check the armory. I want to know exactly what we're working with. The ride to the storage unit took 4 minutes. 4 minutes of silence, except for the rumble of their bikes and the racing of Kane's thoughts. The code 1977 was the year he'd founded the Iron Serpents with three other guys, all dead now, except him. Everything about this situation felt like ghosts coming home to roost. He punched in the code, and the door rolled up with a metallic screech. Eli was sitting on a stack of tires in the corner, hugging his knees to his chest. When he saw Kane, relief flooded his face so completely that it made him look about 12 years old. Thank God. I heard sirens, and I thought, your stepdad's dead. Kane didn't believe in sugarcoating. Somebody killed him tonight, stabbed him multiple times and left him in a warehouse. The color drained from Eli's face. What? And whoever did it wants you in this ring, and they're willing to go through me and my whole club to get both. Kane held up the black and silver. So I'm going to ask you one time, kid, and I need the truth. What the hell is this really? I don't know what you mean. It's just a ring. Bullshit. Kane's voice cracked like a whip. Your stepdad's dead. I got people threatening to kill everyone I care about. And I got a sheriff who's dirtier than month-old laundry telling me this ring was planted for me to find. So no, it ain't just a ring. Now tell me what it is before more people die. Eli's eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them back furiously. I swear I don't know. I found it exactly where I said. By the trash on Route 9, there was no note, no instructions, nothing. Just the ring. Why that location? Why were you there? Because that's where Mike, my stepdad, that's where he'd drop me off sometimes when he didn't want me around. There's a rest stop there. I'd wait for hours until he came back. Eli's voice was getting higher, more desperate. I was there 2 days ago scrounging for cans to return for money, and I found it caught in the grate of the trash can. That's the whole truth, I swear. Kane studied him. Every instinct he had honed by decades of reading people and their lies told him the kid was telling the truth, which meant someone had planted that ring knowing Eli would find it, knowing Eli would bring it here. Your file says you were involved in a trafficking investigation, Kane said quietly. Eli flinched like he'd been slapped. I wasn't involved. I saw things. What things? Things I wasn't supposed to see. Eli stood up, wrapping his arms around himself. Mike, he'd have these guys come by the house sometimes. Late at night, they'd go down to the basement, and I'd hear, his voice broke. I'd hear people down there, crying, begging. I tried to tell a teacher once, but Mike found out, and he touched his ribs unconsciously. After that, I learned to keep my mouth shut. Big Tommy swore viciously behind Kane. The kid's stepdad was a trafficker. Sounds like it. Kane's mind was working overtime, fitting pieces together. And if the ring was planted where he'd drop you off, it means whoever planted it, either knew your routine, knew you'd find it, maybe even knew you'd be decent enough to return it. But why, Eli's voice was small, why would someone want me to bring you a ring? Because Kane stopped, thought about what the distorted voice had said. The ring is a key, opens something very valuable. The boy knows where. Eli, what was in your stepdad's basement besides the people? I don't know. I never went down there. He kept it locked, and he had the only key. Think harder. Did you ever see them carry anything in or out? Eli squeezed his eyes shut, clearly trying to remember. Boxes sometimes, small ones. And once his eyes snapped open. Once I saw one of the guys drop something. It rolled under the couch, and he didn't notice. After they left, I found it. It was a key, one of those old-fashioned ones with the fancy handle. Kane's heart started pounding. Where's that key now? I hid it. I was scared Mike would think I stole it from him, so I put it somewhere he'd never look. Where Eli? The cemetery. There's this mausoleum on the edge of town, the old Mercer family tomb. No one ever goes there. I stuck it behind a loose brick in the back wall. And you never told anyone about this. Who was I going to tell, the cow? Eli laughed bitterly. Mike had half the sheriff's department on his payroll. I tried reporting him once, and a deputy showed up at our house an hour later and told Mike everything I'd said. That was the night I got these. He lifted his shirt, showing a road map of scars across his back. Kane felt rage building in his chest, white hot and dangerous. Big Tommy turned away, his massive hands clenched into fists. The ring, Kane said slowly, forcing himself to think through the anger. You think it goes with the key that they open something together, Oz? Maybe, I don't know. I never thought about it, I just wanted to return it because it seemed important. It is important. Important enough to kill for. Kane made a decision. Tommy, take the kid back to the clubhouse. Put him in the upstairs room, the one with the reinforced door. Nobody gets to him except club members, you understand? Where are you going? To a cemetery. Kane climbed on his bike. And then I'm going to have a conversation with Sheriff Crow about his business relationships. Kane, that's suicide. You can't just roll up on Crow. Watch me. Kane started the engine and the Harley roared to life. Get the kid somewhere safe. I'll be back in 2 hours. If I'm not, he met Tommy's eyes. If I'm not, you know what to do. He was gone before Tommy could argue, tearing down the street toward the cemetery on the south side of town. The Mercer Mausoleum was exactly where Eli had described, a crumbling stone structure covered in moss and neglect. Kane pulled out his phone's flashlight and started checking bricks. It took 15 minutes to find the loose one. Behind it, wrapped in a Ziploc bag, was an ornate brass key about 4 inches long. Kane held it up to the light, studying the engraving on the handle. It matched the serpent design on Ricky's ring perfectly. "What the hell were you into, Ricky?" Kane whispered to the darkness. His phone buzzed. Unknown number again. He answered without saying anything. "You found the key." The same distorted voice from before. "Good. Now you're beginning to understand." "Understand what?" "That your son didn't die in a random act of fictional. He died because he found out about the lock, about what it protects, and he was going to expose everything." Kane's hand tightened on the phone so hard the case cracked. "You killed my son." "Not personally, but yes, his death was ordered because he became inconvenient, just like you're becoming inconvenient, just like that boy is inconvenient." "Where's the lock?" "That's the question, isn't it?" Ricky knew. He'd been tracking shipments, following money, putting together pieces. He was smarter than we gave him credit for. But he made the mistake of confronting the wrong person, and that person, well, let's just say they had him removed. "Who? Bring me the ring and the key by tomorrow night. Do that, and I'll tell you who ordered the hit on your son. I'll give you their name, their location, everything you need. You can have your revenge, Kane, and all you have to do is give me what's mine." And the boy is leverage. His stepdad knew where the lock is located, and the boy might have overheard something useful. "I'll find out what he knows," and then a pause. "Well, then he stops being my problem. You're going to kill him. I'm going to do what's necessary, same as you've done your whole life. Don't pretend you're any different than me, Kane. We both know what you've done to protect your club." Kane's voice went cold. "I've done plenty of things I ain't proud of, but I never went after kids. And I sure as hell never pretended I was doing it for a good reason. You want this ring and this key? Come take them. But you're going to have to go through every iron serpent in this state to get them. That can be arranged." The voice actually sounded amused. 24 hours, Kane. After that, I start sending your people back to you in pieces." The line went dead. Kane stood there in the cemetery, surrounded by dead people's monuments to dead people's lives, and felt something shift in his chest. He'd spent 2 years believing Ricky's death was just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong people. But if this voice was telling the truth, Ricky had died because he'd been trying to do something right. Trying to expose corruption, same as Eli had tried to report his stepdad. They'd both been punished for giving a damn. Kane pocketed the key and rode toward the sheriff's station. It was nearly 1 in the morning, but Crow's truck was in the parking lot. The man practically lived there, probably because his wife had kicked him out years ago for screwing half the county. Kane walked in through the front door without bothering to be subtle. The night deputy, a kid who couldn't be more than 25, jumped to his feet. "Mr. Kane, you can't just—" "Where's Crow?" "Sheriff Crow is busy. You'll need to make an appointment." Kane walked past him like he didn't exist, heading straight for Crow's office. The deputy grabbed his arm, and Kane spun around so fast the kid stumbled backward. "Son, I've had a real bad night. You really want to make it worse?" The deputy must have seen something in Kane's eyes that convinced him to let it go, because he dropped his hand and stepped back. Kane pushed open Crow's door without knocking. The sheriff was at his desk, counting a stack of cash that he quickly shoved into a drawer when he saw who'd entered. "Kane, this is a surprise." "Is it?" Kane shut the door behind him. "Michael Garrett's dead. You know about that?" "Of course I know. It's my jurisdiction." "Who killed him?" Crow leaned back in his chair, trying to look casual. We're investigating. Early days yet. Don't bullshit me, Dalton. You know exactly who killed him and why. Same as you know why you showed up at my bar today looking for Eli Davies and asking about a ring. I was following up on a runaway report. You were delivering a message. Kane pulled the ring from his pocket and tossed it on Crow's desk. The silver gleamed dully under the fluorescent lights. Somebody sent you to find out if the package had been delivered. Well, here's your answer. It was. Now tell me who's pulling your strings. Crow's face had gone pale. Where'd you get that? From my dead son's finger 2 years ago, and then from a scared kid yesterday. You gonna answer my question, or do I need to ask it different? You're threatening a law enforcement officer. I'm asking a simple question. Who hired you to track down this ring? Kane leaned forward, planting his hands on the desk. And don't tell me nobody, because we both know you don't take a piss without someone paying you for it first. Crow's hand moved slowly toward his desk drawer, but Kane was faster. He grabbed Crow's wrist and slammed it down on the desk hard enough to make the sheriff gasp. Try it, and they'll be scraping your brains off the wall behind you. Now talk. You got no idea what you're messing with, Crow wheezed. These people, they got reach everywhere. State police, federal judges. I don't care if they got the president on speed dial. Give me names. I can't. They'll kill me. I'll kill you right now if you don't. Kane wasn't bluffing, and they both knew it. You got 3 seconds. 1. Castellano, Crow practically shouted it. Victor Castellano, he's the one who hired me, said the ring was important, said there was a key that went with it, said together they opened something worth millions. What do they open? I don't know. I swear he never told me that part. He just said the boy's stepdad was part of the operation but got greedy, started skimming. So they eliminated him and put a tail on the kid in case he knew anything. Kane felt the pieces clicking into place. And when the kid ran, you were supposed to find him. Yeah, exactly. But then he showed up at your place with the ring, and Castellano, man, he went ballistic. Started saying you were involved now that your son had been snooping around the operation 2 years ago before they shut him up. The casual way Crow said shut him up made Kane see red. His hand moved to his belt where he kept a knife, but he forced himself to stop. Killing Crow wouldn't bring Ricky back. It would just feel good. Where's Castellano now? He's got a compound about 30 miles north, off Highway 47. You can't miss it, big fence, security cameras, the works. Who else is involved? Crow hesitated, and Kane tightened his grip on the sheriff's wrist until he heard bones creak. Judges Matthews and O'Brien, and Captain Hendricks from State Police, and he stopped. And who? And Mayor Westbrook. Kane let go of Crow's wrist and stepped back, his mind reeling. The mayor, she's part of this? Up to her neck. She's been providing cover for years. Zoning changes, inspection, waivers, anything Castellano needed to move his product. What product? What is this operation? I don't know all of it. Drugs some, girls mostly, young ones from overseas. They bring them in through the port, move them through houses like Garrett's, then ship them out to buyers across the country. Crow's voice had gone flat mechanical, like he was reading from a report. Castellano runs the whole network. Garrett was just one node. There's dozens more. Kane felt sick. All this time, right under his nose, children were being bought and sold like cattle. And people he'd known for years, the mayor, for God's sake, were making it possible. The lock, Kane said quietly. What's it for? Storage, maybe files. I really don't know, Kane. Castellano plays everything close. Only his top guys know the full picture. And you were just going to hand over a 16-year-old kid to these animals. I was trying to stay alive. Crow's voice cracked. You don't understand. They own me. I owe them money they got photos of me with. He stopped. They got leverage. Lots of it. I do what they say, or my life is over. Your life, Kane laughed, and it was a terrible sound. Your life's been over for years, Dalton. You just been too stupid to notice. He picked up the ring from the desk and pocketed it. You're going to do something for me. What? You're going to call Castellano. Tell him you found the boy. Tell him you got the ring. Tell him whatever he wants to hear. Set up a meeting for tomorrow night. His compound. He'll know it's a trap. Then sell it better. You've been lying for these people for years, shouldn't be hard. Kane moved to the door. And Dalton, if I find out you warned him, if I even suspect you made a call, You shouldn't have. I'll come back here and finish what we started. Are we clear? Crow nodded, his face gray with fear. Kane walked out of the station and back to his bike. The key was heavy in his pocket, and the ring felt like it was burning through the fabric. He started the engine and rode back toward the clubhouse, his mind already working through scenarios and strategies and probable outcomes. Most of them ended with people dying. When he got back, the place was transformed. Windows were boarded, sandbags were stacked by the doors, and at least 25 iron serpents were moving around with weapons in plain sight. Snake met him at the door. You look like hell. Feel worse. Kane walked inside. Where's the kid? Upstairs, like you said. Tommy's guarding the door. Kid tried to run twice, thinks he's putting us in danger. He is, but not for the reasons he thinks. Kane called everyone into the main room. When they were assembled, men and women who'd been with him through wars and peace, triumph, and disaster, he told them everything. About the key, about the trafficking network, about Castellano and the corrupt officials protecting him, about Ricky and how his death hadn't been random at all. When he finished, the silence was absolute. Finally, Rita spoke. We're going to war with a trafficking network. Yeah, backed up by cops and judges and the damn mayor. Yeah, and if we lose, they'll kill all of us. Probably. She laughed and it was genuine. Well, hell, been a while since we did something that mattered. I'm in. One by one, every person in that room echoed her. Even Mitch, who was too young to understand what he was agreeing to, said it with conviction. Kane felt that crack in his chest widen a little more. All right then, here's what we're going to do. He laid out the plan. It was risky, probably insane, but it was the only shot they had. They'd use Crow's meeting as a diversion, hit Castellano's compound when his attention was elsewhere, get evidence of the trafficking operation and blow it wide open. News, FBI, social media, everywhere at once so no one could bury it. What about the lock? Big Tommy asked. We still don't know where it is or what's inside. I got a theory about that. Kane turned to Snake. You still got contacts in the Port Authority. Yeah, why? Because I think the lock is in the port, probably a storage container or a warehouse. Somewhere Castellano's keeping records, money, maybe even physical evidence. Somewhere important enough that he needs 2 keys to access it, the ring and the key to make sure no single person can get in without authorization. How do you figure? Because Ricky was working at the port before he died. He was doing accounting, tracking shipments. That's how he found out about the operation. And that's why they killed him. He'd gotten too close to the physical location of their operation. Snake nodded slowly. I can make some calls, find out if there's any containers or warehouses registered under shell companies. Do it. We got, Kane checked his watch, 22 hours before all hell breaks loose. Let's make them count. The room exploded into activity. People made calls, checked weapons, reviewed maps. Kane climbed the stairs to the room where Eli was being held. Tommy stepped aside and Kane knocked before entering. Eli was sitting on the bed looking exhausted and terrified. They're all gonna die because of me, he said without preamble. Everyone down there, because I was stupid enough to think returning a ring would be a good thing. They're down there because they chose to be, Kane said, sitting in the chair across from him. Nobody forced them. Hell, I gave them a chance to walk and they all stayed. Why, they don't even know me. No, but they know what it's like to be in a bad situation with no way out. Every person in this club has been where you are scared alone, thinking nobody gives a damn if they live or die. And somebody reached out a hand and pulled them up. Now we're doing the same for you. My stepdad's dead, Eli said quietly. I should feel something, right? Sad or guilty or something. But I don't. I just feel relieved. Eli looked at him with surprise. Yeah, is that wrong? No, it's human. Kane leaned forward. He hurt you for years, and now he can't anymore. It's okay to be relieved. It's okay to be glad he's gone. The people who killed him, they're going to come after me, after all of you. Let them come. We'll be ready. You don't understand. These people, they're monsters. Yeah, I got that part. But here's what you need to understand, Eli. You survived years of hell and came out the other side still trying to do the right thing. That makes you stronger than any of them. And now you got backup. You ain't alone anymore. Eli's eyes filled with tears again, and this time he didn't fight them. I don't know how to do this, how to let people help me. You're doing it right now. Kane stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day and I need you sharp. Kane, Eli's voice stopped him at the door. Thank you for not handing me over. Thank me when we're all still alive on the other side. Kane closed the door and headed back downstairs. Snake was waiting with his phone out. Found something. Container 447-B, registered to a company called Meridian Holdings. Lease paid through 2030, and guess who's the CEO of Meridian? Castellano. His daughter, Christina Castellano. She's 26, Stanford educated, works at a law firm downtown. The perfect cover. What's in the container? Officially industrial equipment, but the lease agreement requires biometric access and dual key entry. That ain't normal for equipment. Kane smiled and it was predatory. That's it. That's our lock. So what's the play? We hit it tomorrow night. While Crow's meeting with Castellano, we break into that container, get whatever's inside, and make damn sure it goes public before anyone can stop us. And if we're wrong, if there's nothing there, then we improvise. But I don't think we're wrong. I think Ricky died because he found out about that container. And I think whoever killed him has been sweating for 2 years, wondering if he told anyone before he died. The rest of the night passed in preparation. Weapons were cleaned and loaded. Routes were mapped. Contingency plans were made and revised and made again. By the time the sun started to rise, Kane had been awake for 36 hours straight and felt every minute of it in his bones. But when his phone rang at 6 a.m. and Crow's name appeared on the screen, he answered immediately. It's set, Crow said without preamble. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Castellano's compound. He wants to talk. He say anything else? Just that he's expecting you to be reasonable, whatever that means. It means he's expecting me to fold. He's going to be disappointed. Kane ended the call. Snake looked at him from across the room. This is really happening. Yeah, it is. We might all die tomorrow. Yeah, we might. Kane stood and stretched, feeling his spine crack in 3 places. But at least we'll die for something that matters. Beats the hell out of how most people go. Rita brought him coffee, black and strong enough to strip paint. You should rest. Can't. Too much to do. You're no good to anyone if you collapse from exhaustion. I'll rest when this is over. That's what you said when Ricky died, and you still haven't rested. Kane looked at her, really looked at her. Rita had been with the club longer than almost anyone. She'd seen him at his best, and his worst had kept his secrets and shared his burdens. Maybe I don't deserve to rest, he said quietly. Maybe, or maybe you've been punishing yourself for 2 years for something that wasn't your fault, and it's time to stop. She squeezed his shoulder. Get that bastard who killed your son. Then rest, in that order. Kane nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every hour felt like 10. Every minute was another chance for something to go wrong, for Crow to crack, for Castellano to figure out the plan. But nothing happened. The world kept turning indifferent to the war brewing beneath its surface. When night finally fell again, Kane gathered everyone one last time. Tomorrow we end this, one way or another, everyone clear on their part. A chorus of affirmatives answered him. Good. Now, get some sleep. We roll at 8 tomorrow night. Upstairs, Eli was still awake, staring at the ceiling. Kane sat beside him. Can't sleep either, the kid asked. Nope. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Eli spoke. Kane, what happens if you don't come back tomorrow? Then Tommy takes over. He'll make sure you were safe. That's not what I meant. Kane knew it wasn't. If I don't come back, you keep living. You finish school, you get a job, you build a life. And you remember that people died so you could have that chance. Don't waste it. I won't. Good. Kane stood to leave, then paused. And Eli, you did good bringing back that ring. Your instinct to do the right thing, even when it's hard, that's rare. Don't lose it. He walked out before the kid could respond, before the emotion building in his chest could break free. Tomorrow, people would die. Maybe him, maybe his family, maybe everyone. But tonight, for just a few more hours, they were all still alive. And sometimes that had to be enough. The morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. Kane was standing in the shower at 5 a.m. letting scalding water beat against his shoulders when his phone started buzzing. He grabbed a towel and checked the screen. Snake. Talk to me. We got movement out of the port. 3 vehicles just pulled up to container 447-B. Armed guards looks like they're doing the sweep. Kane's grip tightened on the phone. They know. Maybe. Or maybe it's routine. Either way, they're there now. How many guards? I count 6. Could be more inside. Stay on it. Don't engage. Just watch. Kane killed the call and was dressed in under 2 minutes. Downstairs, the clubhouse was already buzzing with nervous energy. Big Tommy was checking magazines, Rita was brewing industrial-strength coffee, and Mitch was pacing like a caged animal. "We got a problem," Kane announced, and every head turned. "Castellano's got guards at the container. Either he knows we're coming, or he's just being paranoid." "What's the play?" Tommy asked. "We move up the timeline. We hit the port at noon instead of tonight." "That's 8 hours early," Snake said. "We'll be exposed. Daytime witnesses cops. And we'll have surprise. They're expecting us tonight if they're expecting us at all. We go now, we catch them with their pants down." Kane grabbed a cup of coffee and downed it in 3 gulps. "Snake, you and your team take the port. Tommy, you're with me on Castellano's compound." "Wait, I thought we were using Crow's meeting as cover," Rita said. "Plans change." Crow probably already tipped them off. "We go in hard, we go in fast, and we don't give them time to mount a defense." Kane pulled out the ring and the key. "These get us in. Whatever's in that container, we get it, and we go public immediately. No waiting, no hesitation." "What about the kid?" Mitch asked. "Eli stays here with Rita and 2 guards. If things go south, Rita gets him out of state. There's a safe house in Montana. Coordinates are in the office safe." Rita nodded, her face grim. Kane looked around the room at faces he'd known for decades. Some of these people wouldn't make it through the day. That was just math. But none of them were backing down, and he'd never been more proud or more terrified in his life. "Gear up. We leave in 30 minutes. The next half hour was controlled chaos. Weapons distributed, vests strapped on, final checks completed. Kane went upstairs one more time. Eli was awake, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I heard you're going now." "Yeah. I should come with you. That container, whatever's in it, maybe I know something that could help." "You've helped enough. Your job now is to stay alive, so this all means something." Kane pulled out a burner phone. "Rita's number is programmed in. You stay with her, you do what she says, and you don't try to be a hero." "We clear. What if you don't come back?" "Then you make sure what we find today matters. You tell our story. You make sure people know what happened here." Kane's voice roughened. "You make sure my son didn't die for nothing." Eli stood and did something unexpected. He hugged Kane, just grabbed him and held on like he was drowning. Kane stiffened for a second, then wrapped his arms around the kid and squeezed. "Thank you," Eli whispered, "for everything." "Don't thank me yet. We ain't done." Kane pulled back, cleared his throat. "Stay safe, kid." He was out the door before Eli could respond. The ride to the port took 20 minutes. 10 bikes, 20 iron serpents, riding in tight formation. Cops saw them and looked the other way. Kane had called in every favor he had to make sure they got there without interference. Snake pulled up alongside him at a red light. "Second thoughts. About 100? You. More like 200, but we're doing it anyway." "Damn right we are." They reached the port at 11:45. The place was massive, thousands of containers stacked like metal building blocks. Snake's contact had gotten them security codes, but those were only good for the gate. Everything after that was going to be improvisation and violence. Kane split them into 2 teams. Snake's crew would handle the container. Kane and Tommy would run interference, keep Castellano's guards busy while the real work happened. "Remember," Kane said, "we're not here to kill anyone unless we have to. We're here for evidence. In and out, 10 minutes maximum." "And if it goes longer than 10 minutes, someone asked. "Then we fight our way out and pray we're faster than their bullets." They moved through the gate at noon exactly. Security was light, just 2 guards at the checkpoint, both of whom were on Kane's payroll, and waved them through without a word. Container 447-B was in the far corner, isolated from the others. As they approached, Kane counted 8 guards instead of 6. All armed, all alert. "Well," Tommy muttered, "guess they were expecting company after all." Kane pulled his bike to a stop 50 yards out. The guards immediately raised their weapons. "That's far enough," the lead guard shouted. "This is private property." "We just want to talk," Kane called back. Then call and make an appointment. Can't do that? See, we got something belongs to us, and we think it's in that container. Kane held up the ring so it caught the sunlight. This looked familiar. The lead guard's face went pale. He grabbed his radio. We got a situation. I repeat, we got... Snake's rifle cracked once and the radio exploded in the guard's hand. He screamed and dropped to his knees, clutching his bleeding fingers. Now that wasn't very friendly, Snake called out. We said we wanted to talk. The other guards opened fire. Kane and Tommy dove behind their bikes as bullets pinged off metal. Return fire came from Snake's position, controlled bursts that kept the guards pinned but didn't kill them. 10 minutes, Kane shouted. Working on it. Snake was already at the container door with the ring and key. The lock was complex, requiring both simultaneously. He inserted the key, then pressed the ring's serpent design against a hidden reader. Something clicked deep inside the mechanism. The door swung open. Oh God, Snake breathed. Kane glanced over and felt his stomach drop. The container wasn't full of files or money. It was full of cages, small cages. Empty now, thank God, but the implications were clear. This was where they kept people before shipping them out. And on the back wall, lit by emergency lighting, was a massive server rack. That's it, Snake yelled. That's where they keep the records. Get it and get out! Kane returned fire at a guard who was trying to flank them. The bullet took the man in the shoulder and spun him around. Snake and two others rushed into the container. Kane heard them working, heard the server drives being yanked free. Every second felt like an hour. Then he heard something that made his blood run cold. Helicopter rotors. We got company, Tommy pointed at the sky. A black helicopter was coming in fast from the north. No markings, no lights, just a predator zeroing in on prey. Snake, whatever you're doing, do it faster. Almost got it. The helicopter was close now, close enough that Kane could see the side door sliding open, close enough to see the man inside aiming a rifle. Take cover, Kane screamed. The rifle opened up, and the ground exploded around them. Concrete chips flew like shrapnel. One of Snake's guys went down, clutching his leg and screaming. Kane fired back at the helicopter, but his pistol was useless at that range. Tommy pulled out a shotgun and let loose buckshot, sparking off the helicopter's hull. Got it. Snake emerged from the container carrying 2 hard drives. Let's move. They ran for the bikies, dragging the wounded man between them. The helicopter swung around for another pass. Split up, Kane ordered. Make yourselves harder targets. The bikes roared to life and scattered in different directions. The helicopter tried to follow Snake's group. They had the drives, but Kane deliberately cut across his path, drawing fire. Bullets chewed up the pavement behind him. He weaved between containers, using them as cover, leading the helicopter away from his people. Tommy was right behind him, and together they made enough of a distraction that the helicopter lost sight of Snake's crew. We gotta lose this thing, Tommy shouted over the engine noise. Working on it. Kane spotted a maintenance building ahead and gunned the engine. He shot through the open bay door with inches to spare, Tommy right behind him. They skidded to a stop inside, killing the engines. The helicopter circled overhead, searching. Kane's phone buzzed. Snake. We're out. Got the drives. 2 wounded, but everyone's alive. Get those drives to the journalist, the one I told you about, Sharon Price. She's going to need protection. So give it to her and make sure she understands what she's got. This goes public in the next 2 hours, or we did this for nothing. What about you? We're going to finish this. Castellano needs to answer for what he's done. Kane, that's suicide. Probably, but I'm doing it anyway. Kane ended the call and looked at Tommy. You don't have to come with me. Where are you going? To Castellano's compound. To end this. Tommy grinned, and it was fierce. You think I'd miss the grand finale? Let's ride. They waited until the helicopter moved off, searching elsewhere, then fired up the bikes and headed north. The compound was 30 miles away, and Kane used every one of those miles to plan what came next. By the time they reached the property line, he'd accepted that he probably wasn't leaving alive. But if he could take Castellano with him, if he could make sure the man who'd ordered his son's death paid for it, then that was enough. The compound was exactly what Crow had described. 10-foot fence cameras everywhere, guards patrolling with eyes. A fortress designed to keep the world out. Kane rode right up to the front gate and stopped. Tommy pulled up beside him. A voice came over an intercom. You're trespassing on private property. Tell Victor Castellano that Marcus Kane wants to talk. Tell him I've got his ring and his key, and I know what they open. Silence. Then the voice came back different this time. Older, smoother. Mr. Kane, I've been expecting you. Come in. Alone. The gate started to open. Don't, Tommy said. This is a trap. I know. Kane handed Tommy his phone. Wait 30 minutes. If I'm not out by then, send this video to every news outlet you can find. What video? The one I recorded last night explains everything, where the evidence is, who's involved, all of it. It's my insurance policy. Kane, 30 minutes, Tommy, not a second more. Kane rode through the gate before his friend could argue. The drive up to the main house was lined with armed men. Kane counted 12, probably more inside. The house itself was modern, all glass and steel, completely at odds with the ugliness of what happened here. Castellano was waiting on the front steps. He was 65, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Kane's bike. He looked like somebody's grandfather, not a man who trafficked children. Mr. Kane, I appreciate you coming. We have much to discuss. Nothing to discuss. I'm here to kill you. Castellano laughed, genuine amusement in his voice. I admire the honesty, but I think you'll find that more complicated than you imagine. He gestured to the house. Please, I promise you safe passage. For now. Kane got off his bike, slowly, acutely aware of all the guns pointed at him. He followed Castellano inside. The interior was as cold as the exterior. White walls, minimal furniture, everything expensive and sterile. Castellano led him to an office overlooking the property. Drink? No. Suit yourself. Castellano poured himself whiskey. I understand you've had an eventful morning. The server is quite dramatic. Your son would have been proud. Kane's hand moved to his gun, but Castellano held up a finger. Before you do something we'll both regret, let me show you something. He pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. This is a live feed from your clubhouse. Kane's heart stopped. On the screen he could see Rita and Eli in the main room, and surrounding them were armed men, at least 10, all wearing tactical gear. Your people fought well, but my people are better trained. Right now they have orders not to harm anyone unless I give the word. But if something were to happen to me, if, say, you were to shoot me, then those orders change. The woman dies. The boy dies. Everyone dies. Do we understand each other? Kane's hand fell away from his gun. You son of a bitch. Perhaps, but I'm a pragmatic son of a bitch. I don't want violence, Mr. Kane. I want a solution that works for both of us. There's no solution here. You killed my son. I did, and I'm genuinely sorry about that. Ricky was smart, brave, principled, all the things that make someone dangerous to an operation like mine. He found out about the containers, about the shipments. He was going to expose everything. I couldn't allow that. So you had him murdered. I had him removed. That's what we do in this business when someone becomes a liability. Surely you understand you've done the same in your organization. I've never killed a kid for trying to do the right thing. No. What about Carlos Mendez? 22 years old, trying to leave your club with information about your gun-running operation. I believe you personally ensured he never made it to the police station. Kane felt like he'd been punched. Carlos Mendez. That had been 15 years ago, back when the club was wilder, meaner. The kid had been stealing from them, threatening to talk. Kane had made sure he couldn't. That was different. Was it, or do you just tell yourself that so you can sleep at night? Castellano sat in his chair, completely relaxed. We're not so different, you and I. We both protect what's ours. We both do terrible things for what we believe are good reasons. The only difference is scale. Scale and victims. I never heard innocence. Everyone's innocent to someone, Mr. Kane. Those girls I move, they're innocent to their families, but they're products to my clients. It's all perspective. Kane felt rage building in his chest, white hot and pure. You're justifying slavery. I'm explaining economics, supply and demand. I simply facilitate transactions. You're a monster. And you're a hypocrite, but I didn't bring you here to debate morality. I brought you here to make a deal. No deal. Hear me out. The servers your people stole, they're encrypted, military grade. It'll take the FBI months to crack them if they ever do. And by then I'll have relocated the operation, changed the structure, made it untraceable. You've won a battle, Mr. Kane, but you haven't won the war. So what do you want? The boy, Eli Davies. His stepfather was sloppy, kept handwritten records hidden in the house. The boy might know where they are. Those records could hurt me. So I want him. You give him to me, I let you and your club live. Everyone goes home. We call it even. You want me to hand over a 16-year-old kid so you can torture information out of him and then kill him. I prefer to think of it as extracting necessary intelligence. What happens after is entirely dependent on his level of cooperation. Kane looked at the tablet screen again. Eli was sitting next to Rita, looking terrified, but alive. One word from Kane and he'd die. One word and Rita and everyone else in that building would die. I need time to think. You have 5 minutes. Use them wisely. Castellano stood and walked to the window, giving Kane space. Kane pulled out his phone. 28 minutes since he'd left Tommy. 2 minutes before the video went live. He typed out a text to Snake, just 2 words, release everything. Then he deleted it. Because if the evidence went public now, Castellano's men would kill everyone at the clubhouse out of spite. Eli would die. Rita would die. The club would be destroyed. But if he handed over Eli, the boy would die anyway. And Castellano would keep operating, keep destroying lives, keep feeding the machine that had killed Ricky. There was no good choice. There was just choosing who paid the price. Kane looked at Castellano's back and calculated distances, angles, bullets. He could get one shot off before the guards killed him. One chance to end this, but Eli would still die. Rita would still die. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, don't do it. Kane stared at the screen. Another text came through, we're already here. Time's up, Mr. Kane. Castellano turned around. What's it going to be? Kane raised his gun and pointed it at Castellano's head. Every guard in the room aimed at Kane. Last chance, Castellano said calmly. The boy or everyone dies. Everyone dies anyway with you alive. Perhaps, but at least some of them get to die later rather than sooner. Isn't that worth something? Kane's finger tightened on the trigger. 1 pound of pressure. That's all it would take. 1 bullet to end the man who'd taken everything from him. But his phone buzzed again and again, messages flooding in. He glanced down for a fraction of a second. The first message was from Sharon Price, the journalist. Stories live. Every major outlet. You did it. The second was from Snake. FBI just raided the port. They got everything. The third was from Tommy. Cavalry's here. And then Kane heard its sirens, lots of them, getting closer. Castellano heard them too. His expression finally cracked, showing fear underneath. What did you do? I did what my son would have wanted. I exposed you. Kane lowered his gun slightly. Those servers weren't as encrypted as you thought. My guys cracked them in 30 minutes. Names, dates, locations, bank accounts, everything. And right now it's being broadcast to every news station in the country. Your judges can't help you. Your cops can't help you. Your mayor damn sure can't help you. Castellano lunged for a drawer in his desk, probably going for a gun. Kane shot him in the shoulder, and the man went down screaming. The guards opened fire. Kane dove behind the desk as bullets tore through the air where he'd been standing. He heard glass shatter, heard men shouting, heard the sirens getting closer. Then he heard something beautiful, the sound of Big Tommy's shotgun. His friend came through the door like a freight train, firing both barrels. 2 guards went down. More iron serpents poured in behind him, and suddenly the house was a war zone. Kane crawled to where Castellano was writhing on the floor. Where's my clubhouse? Where's Eli? Go to hell, Castellano spat. Kane pressed his gun against the man's knee. Tell me, or I'll start taking pieces off you. They're already dead. I gave the order the second the siren started. Kane's world went white. He stood up, pressed the gun against Castellano's forehead. Kane, don't. Tommy grabbed his arm. The feds are 30 seconds away. You do this, you go to prison. I don't care. But Rita cares. Eli cares. Everyone who's depending on you to see this through cares. Don't throw it away for revenge. Kane stood there shaking with rage and grief, the gun pressed so hard against Castellano's head, it left an indentation. Then he lowered it. You're right. He ain't worth it. Federal agents poured into the house shouting commands. Kane let them take his gun, let them cuff him, let them lead him outside. As they did, he saw Castellano being loaded into an ambulance, still screaming about lawyers and rights and immunity deals. Tommy was being cuffed too, but he was grinning. Check your phone. Kane managed to pull it out before an agent took it. One new message this time from Rita. We're okay. His men ran when they heard the sirens. Eli's safe. Kane felt something break inside him. Not shatter, just finally release. He started laughing, couldn't stop, laughed so hard tears ran down his face. The federal agent looked at him like he was crazy. Something funny? Yeah, Kane managed. Everything's funny. They put him in a car and drove him away from the compound. Through the window, he could see news helicopters circling, could see the parade of law enforcement vehicles flooding the property. It was over. Whatever came next, trials, prison consequences, it was over. Ricky had been avenged. Eli was safe. The operation was exposed. The monsters would finally face justice. Kane closed his eyes and for the first time in 2 years, let himself rest. The interrogation room was exactly what Kane expected. Gray walls, metal table mirror. That wasn't really a mirror. He'd been sitting there for 3 hours before anyone bothered to show up. The door opened and a woman walked in. Late 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She dropped a file on the table and sat down across from him. Mr. Kane, I'm Special Agent Lisa Hartfield, FBI. You've had quite a day. That what we're calling it? What would you call it? Justice. Long overdue. Kane leaned back in his chair. You gonna charge me, or can I go? That depends entirely on what you tell me in the next hour. Hartfield opened the file. Breaking and entering, destruction of property, assault with a deadly weapon, conspiracy. I could go on. You're looking at 20 years minimum. Worth it. Is it because from where I'm sitting, you just threw your life away for a publicity stunt? She pulled out photos, the container, the servers, the cages. We would have gotten Castellano eventually. We've been building a case for months. Months, years probably. Meanwhile, how many kids got shipped through those containers while you were building your case? Hartfield's jaw tightened. We follow procedures, Mr. Kane. We build cases that stick. What you did today, half of it might not be admissible in court because of how it was obtained. Don't need it to be admissible, just needed it to be public. That's the difference between us. You care about convictions. I care about exposure. Castellano's face is on every news channel in America right now, along with his judges and his cops and his mayor. Even if your case falls apart, they're done. Public opinion's already convicted them. And you think that's justice? I think it's better than nothing. Kane met her eyes. My son died trying to expose these people 2 years ago. You knew about Castellano 2 years ago. Hartfield didn't answer, which was answer enough. That's what I thought. So yeah, I'll take public exposure over your procedures any day. Hartfield closed the file and stood up. You're being released. No charges. Kane blinked. What? Assistant director's orders. Apparently you're more useful as a witness than a defendant. But don't mistake this for approval, Mr. Kane. What you did today was reckless and dangerous and could have gotten people killed. People were already dying. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Maybe, but next time you decide to play hero, remember that we're on the same side. She walked to the door, then paused. Your son, Ricky, I read his file. He came to us 6 months before he died, tried to tell us what he'd found. We told him we needed more evidence before we could act. Kane felt something twist in his chest. You knew, and you sent him back. We didn't know they'd kill him. We thought, her voice cracked slightly. We thought we had more time. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back. No, but maybe what you did today does right by his memory, for whatever that's worth. She opened the door. There's someone waiting for you outside. Kane walked out of the interrogation room and through a maze of hallways until he reached the lobby. Eli was sitting on a bench next to Rita, both of them looking exhausted. When Eli saw Kane, he jumped up. You're okay. They said you were okay, but I thought, I'm fine, kid. Kane found himself hugging Eli again, and this time it felt natural. You good? Yeah, Rita wouldn't let those guys anywhere near me. She's scary when she's mad. Don't I know it? Kane looked at Rita. Everyone else? All accounted for. Few injuries, but nothing serious. Snake's already back at the clubhouse organizing cleanup. Tommy's still giving his statement, but they're cutting him loose soon. Rita's voice dropped. It's really over. Yeah, it's over. They walked out into the parking lot where Big Tommy was leaning against his bike, smoking a cigarette. When he saw Kane, he stubbed it out and grinned. Thought they might keep your stubborn ass. They thought about it. Kane looked around. Where's everyone else? Hospital mostly, making sure everybody's patched up proper. Snake said to tell you the clubhouse is secure and the media's camped outside wanting statements. Tell him no comment. Already did. But Kane, Tommy's expression turned serious. We got another problem. Crow's missing. Kane felt ice slide down his spine. Missing how? As in he never showed up for booking. Feds went to bring him in and his house was empty. No sign of forced entry. No struggle, just gone. He ran. Or someone made him disappear. Either way, he's in the wind. Kane thought about Crow, about all the secrets. The man knew all the people he could still hurt. Put the word out. Every charter, every contact. Someone sees him, I want to know immediately. Already done. They rode back to the clubhouse in formation, a smaller group than before, but still together. The news vans were exactly where Tommy had said, cameras tracking them as they pulled up. Kane ignored the shouted questions and walked inside. The place was a mess. Furniture overturned, windows shot out blood on the floor from where Castellano's men had gotten in before retreating. But it was standing. They were standing. Snake met him at the door. Boss, you look like hell. Feel worse. What's the damage? Structurally, nothing we can't fix. Legally. Snake handed him a phone. That's been ringing nonstop. Lawyers mostly. Some good news, some not so good. Kane checked the messages. 3 different law firms offering representation. 2 news programs requesting interviews. 1 message from Sharon Price, the journalist who'd broken the story asking for an exclusive. And 1 from a blocked number that just said, you made a mistake. That last one came in 20 minutes ago, Snake said quietly. Untraceable. Castellano's people. Or what's left of them. We heard them today, Kane, but we didn't kill the organization. Just cut off the head. The body's still out there and it's pissed. Kane deleted the message. Let him be pissed. We'll handle whatever comes. And if what comes is worse than Castellano, then we handle that too. Kane walked into the main room where the rest of the club was gathered. 30 faces, give or take. Some bruised, some bandaged, all watching him. I'm not going to stand here and pretend today was clean, Kane said. We broke laws. We risked lives. Some of you are probably questioning whether it was worth it. He paused. But I look at that kid over there. He pointed to Eli, who was sitting with Rita. And I know it was. Because he's alive. Because the people who killed my son are facing justice. Because the monsters who were trafficking children are being exposed. That's worth it. That's worth everything. Damn right it is, someone called out. But here's the thing. This ain't over. We made enemies today. Powerful ones. And they're going to come for us. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. So if anyone wants out, now's the time. I'll give you your patch back with no hard feelings and a clean separation. But if you stay, you're in this until the end, whatever that looks like. For that look, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Big Tommy started slow clapping, and one by one the rest of the club joined in until the room was thundering with applause. Kane felt that crack in his chest widen a little more, felt something like hope starting to seep in around the edges of his grief. All right then, let's get this place cleaned up. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Broken glass swept up, bullet holes patched, furniture replaced. Rita organized food, pizza, Chinese, whatever she could get delivered, and the club ate together, sharing stories about the day, laughing at the close calls, mourning the injuries. Eli helped where he could, fetching tools and holding boards while people repaired walls. Kane watched him integrate into the group. Naturally saw the way Rita mother-henned him, and Tommy taught him to properly load a magazine, and Snake showed him how to change oil on a bike. The kid was finding family, real family, the kind that chose you instead of the kind you were stuck with. Around midnight, Kane's phone rang. Sharon Price. Mr. Kane, I've been trying to reach you all day. Been busy. I imagine so. Listen, the story's exploding. Every network wants a piece. The FBI's confirmed they're investigating based on the evidence you provided. 3 judges have already resigned. The mayor's under house arrest. Castellano's in federal custody, and his lawyers are scrambling. Good. But there's a problem. Some people are saying the evidence is tainted, that because you obtained it illegally, it shouldn't be admissible. They're trying to get everything thrown out on technicalities. Kane's grip tightened on the phone. Can they do that? Maybe. That's why I'm calling. I need your story, the whole thing. Why you did this, what you found, what it means. If I can get public opinion firmly on your side, it makes it harder for them to sweep this under the rug. You want an interview. I want the truth. And I think you owe it to your son to make sure his death matters. Don't you? Kane closed his eyes. She was right, and they both knew it. When, tomorrow morning, my studio, 9 a.m., and Mr. Kane, bring Eli if he's willing. His story matters too. Kane found Eli in the garage helping Mitch detail a bike. Got a minute? They walked outside into the cool night air. The news vans were still there, but the reporters had mostly given up and were dozing in their cars. How you holding up? Kane asked. I don't know. I keep thinking about Mike, my stepdad. I know I should feel something, but I just feel empty. Like there should be sadness there, but there's just nothing. That's normal. Grief's complicated when the person who died also hurt you. You're allowed to feel however you feel. Did you feel that way when your son died? The question hit Kane like a punch. No, with Ricky it was just pain, pure and simple. But I've lost other people where it was more complicated. My old man, for instance. He was a drunk and a bully, and when he died, all I felt was relief. Took me years to stop feeling guilty about that relief. You think I'll feel guilty? Maybe. Or maybe you'll just move on. Either way's okay. Kane sat on the curb. Listen, I got a call from that journalist, Sharon Price. She wants to interview us tomorrow morning. Tell our story to the world. I told her I'd do it, but I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to join me. Eli's eyes widened. Me on TV. You don't have to. I know it's scary, but your story, what you survived, what you witnessed, it matters. It puts a human face on all this. What if people blame me for Mike's death, for bringing you that ring? Then they're idiots, but most people won't. Most people will see a kid who survived hell and still tried to do the right thing. That's powerful, Eli. That's the kind of story that changes minds. Eli was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay, I'll do it. You sure, Bae? Yeah, if it helps stop this from happening to other kids, then yeah, I'm sure. Kane squeezed his shoulder. Your mom would be proud of you. You think, I know. They sat there in silence watching the stars and the news vans and the slow rotation of the world moving forward despite everything. Inside, Rita was clearing plates and arguing with Snake about something trivial. Tommy was arm wrestling Mitch and losing badly. The jukebox was playing old country music that nobody was really listening to. It felt like home. Kane's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, Mr. Kane. Justice came for Castellano. Now it's coming for you. He deleted it without responding. The morning came faster than expected. Kane managed 3 hours of sleep on the couch before Rita was shaking him awake with coffee and fresh clothes. You look presentable, she declared after he'd showered and changed. Eli's ready. Tommy's driving you to the studio. You're not coming. Someone's got to hold down the fort. Besides, you don't need me getting misty-eyed on camera. This is your story, and the kids. Tell it right. The drive to the studio took 45 minutes. Sharon Price met them at the door, mid-50s, gray hair, the kind of steady presence that made you want to trust her. Mr. Kane, Eli, thank you for coming. She led them into a studio where cameras were set up. We're doing this live. No edits, no takebacks. That okay? Fine by me. Good. We go on in 5 minutes. Just be honest. That's all I ask. They sat in chairs facing Sharon, and a makeup artist did quick touch-ups. Eli looked terrified. Kane leaned over and whispered, just tell the truth. That's all you gotta do. What if I mess up? Then you mess up. Nobody's perfect. Just be yourself. The cameras went live. Sharon's voice was calm and professional as she introduced the segment. Today we're joined by Marcus Kane, president of the Iron Serpents Motorcycle Club, and Eli Davies, the 16-year-old whose actions sparked the exposure of one of the largest trafficking operations in the country. Mr. Kane, let's start with you. Why did you do this? Kane looked directly into the camera. Because my son died trying to expose these people 2 years ago, and I wasn't going to let his death be for nothing. Because a kid walked into my bar trying to do something decent and got caught up in something evil. Because sometimes the system moves too slow and people get hurt while everyone's following procedures. You broke several laws in the process. I did, and I'd do it again. Not because I think I'm above the law, but because I think protecting kids is more important than protecting protocol. Some would call you a vigilante. Some would be right, but I didn't do this for glory or recognition. I did it because it needed to be done and nobody else was doing it. Sharon turned to Eli. Eli, you've been through an ordeal that most people can't imagine. Can you tell us what the last few weeks have been like for you? Eli's voice was shaky at first, but it steadied as he spoke. I was just trying to survive. My stepdad he wasn't a good person. And when I found that ring, I thought if I could return it, maybe that would be one good thing I'd done. I didn't know it would lead to all this, but I'm glad it did. Because those people, what they were doing to kids like me, it had to stop. You witnessed things in your stepfather's house, things you reported to authorities. I tried to, but nobody listened. Or if they did, they didn't care enough to do anything. That's what made it so scary, knowing that the people who were supposed to protect me were the same people protecting him. How do you feel now that your stepfather is dead? Eli looked at Cain, then back at Sharon. I feel free. Is that wrong? Am I supposed to be, oh, because I'm not. I'm relieved. And I'm grateful to Mr. Cain and his club for protecting me when nobody else would. Sharon's eyes were wet, but her voice stayed professional. Mr. Cain, what happens now? Castellano's in custody, but as you said, the organization still exists. Now we keep fighting. We make sure every person involved in this gets exposed. We make sure the victims get help. And we make damn sure nothing like this happens again on our watch. You realize you've made powerful enemies. I've had powerful enemies my whole life. This is just another Tuesday. Sharon smiled slightly. Any final words for people watching? Cain thought about Ricky, about all the things he'd wanted to say when his son was alive but never did. Yeah, if you see something wrong, say something. Do something and don't wait for someone else to fix it. And if you're a kid watching this who's in a bad situation, whether it's abuse or trafficking or just feeling alone, know that there are people out there who will fight for you. You just got to reach out. And for those who might want to help, donate to organizations fighting trafficking. Pay attention to what's happening in your community. And don't look away just because it's uncomfortable. Evil thrives in silence. Make some noise. The interview ended and Sharon thanked them off camera. That was powerful, both of you. The response is already overwhelming. My phone's blowing up with messages of support and criticism, Cain asked. That too, but mostly support. You struck a chord, Mr. Cain. People are angry. They want change. Good. Channel that anger into action. They walked out of the studio and into a crowd of reporters. Questions flew like bullets. Mr. Cain, is it true you shot Victor Castellano? Are you worried about retaliation? What message do you have for other trafficking victims? Cain held up a hand. I got one statement and one statement only. What we did yesterday wasn't heroic. It was necessary. And if you're in law enforcement or government or any position of power and you're turning a blind eye to this kind of evil, your days are numbered. People are watching now. People care now. You can't hide anymore. He pushed through the crowd with Eli and Tommy following. They were almost to the truck when a shot rang out. Cain felt something burn across his upper arm and realized he'd been hit. He shoved Eli down behind a car as Tommy pulled his weapon and returned fire. More shots, people screaming, reporters diving for cover. Cain drew his own gun and tried to see where the shots were coming from. A rooftop across the street. One shooter, maybe two. Stay down, he shouted to Eli. Tommy was moving using parked cars as cover, working toward the building. Cain provided covering fire, forcing the shooter to stay hidden. Then silence. The shooter was either reloading or repositioning. Cain, Tommy's voice. He's moving east side. Cain broke cover and ran, ignoring the burning pain in his arm. He rounded the building and saw a figure in black disappearing into an alley. He followed, heard footsteps ahead, turned a corner, and came face to face with Sheriff Dalton Crowe. The man looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 days, unshaven, wild-eyed, holding a rifle with shaking hands. Crowe. You ruined everything. Crowe's voice was breaking. Everything I built. My career, my life, all of it. Because you couldn't mind your own business. You mean because I stopped you from helping monsters hurt kids? I was surviving, that's all. Just trying to survive in a world that eats people like me alive. By feeding it children, that's how you justify it. Crow raised the rifle. I should have killed that boy when I had the chance. Should have killed you too. But you didn't, because you're a coward, always have been. Maybe, but at least I'll die having done something right. Crow's finger tightened on the trigger. Kane dove left as the rifle cracked. The bullet took a chunk out of the brick wall behind him. He rolled, came up, firing 3 shots center mass. Crow went down hard, the rifle clattering on the pavement. Kane approached cautiously, kicked the weapon away. Crow was still alive, barely blood spreading across his chest. Funny thing, Crow wheezed. I thought I'd feel different. When the end came, thought there'd be clarity or peace or something. There's nothing. That's the secret. There's just the end. Tell my wife. Crow stopped, coughed blood. Never mind. She already knows what I was. Kane watched the light fade from Crow's eyes and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no remorse. Just the empty weight of another body added to the pile. Tommy rounded the corner, weapon drawn. He dead? Yeah. You okay? Arms bleeding, but I'll live. Kane looked at his friend. How's Eli? Shaken but fine. Rita's already on her way with the van. We gotta get you both out of here before the cops show up. I'm not running from the cops. I defended myself. Let them come. And they did. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Kane sat on the curb next to Crow's body and waited, his arm throbbing and his mind surprisingly quiet. Agent Hartfield was the first one through the alley. She looked at Crow, then at Kane, then sighed heavily. You have the worst luck of anyone I've ever met. He shot first. Multiple witnesses. I know, but that doesn't make this any less of a mess. She knelt next to Crow's body. He was on our list to bring in. Would have been better if he'd lived to testify. He was trying to kill me. My survival took priority. Can't argue with that. She stood. Let's get that arm looked at. And then you and I are going to have a very long conversation about how you keep ending up in the middle of federal investigations. The paramedics bandaged Kane's arm, just a graze, nothing serious, while he gave his statement. By the time they were done, the sun was setting and he was so exhausted he could barely stand. Rita drove him and Eli back to the clubhouse in silence. When they arrived, the whole club was waiting outside. They erupted in cheers when they saw Kane, and he found himself being hugged and backslapped and toasted with cheap beer. Speech, someone yelled. Kane held up his good arm for quiet. No speech, just this: we did something today. Something that mattered. And yeah, it's going to have consequences. Yeah, we made enemies. But we also made a difference. Ricky would be proud. Hell, I'm proud of all of you. More cheers, more beer. The party went late into the night, but Kane slipped away after an hour and found Eli on the back porch staring at the stars. You okay? I was so scared today. When those shots went off, I thought, I know. Me too. Kane sat beside him. But we're still here, and Crow's not. That's going to have to be enough. Is it always like this when you're in the club? No, most days are boring. Maintenance meetings, paperwork. Today was exceptional. Good, because I don't think I could handle this every day. Kane laughed. Neither could I, kid. Neither could I. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the night and listening to the party inside and feeling the weight of everything that had happened slowly start to lift. Kane, Eli's voice was quiet. What happens to me now? I don't have anywhere to go. No family, no home. You got both right here if you want them. Rita's already cleared out the spare room. Says you can stay as long as you need. And the club, well, you're one of us now. Whether you wear a patch or not, you're family. Really? Really? You proved yourself today, Eli. Showed courage most grown men don't have. That means something here. Eli wiped his eyes quickly. Thank you for everything. Don't thank me yet. We still got a long road ahead. Trial's testimony, probably more threats, but we'll face it together. All of us. Inside, someone had put Ricky's favorite song on the jukebox. Kane closed his eyes and listened, letting the memory of his son wash over him without the usual accompanying pain. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was close. And for now, that was enough. The sun came up on a different world. Kane woke to his phone ringing at 6 a.m. Rita's voice, urgent on the other end. Turn on the news. Any channel. He stumbled to the TV in the clubhouse common room where half a dozen iron serpents were already gathered staring at the screen. Every network was running the same story, Massive federal raids across 5 states. Arrests happening in real time. Judges let out in handcuffs. Police captains, city officials, business owners. The trafficking network was collapsing like a house of cards. 73 arrests so far, the anchor was saying, and sources say more are coming. This is being called the largest coordinated takedown of a human trafficking operation in U.S. history. Snake whistled low. We did that. No, Kane said quietly. Ricky did that 2 years ago when he started digging. We just finished what he started. His phone rang again. Agent Hartfield. Mr. Kane, I need you to come in. We've got people willing to talk, but only if you're there. They trust you more than us. Who's talking? Victims, dozens of them. They were being held in locations across 3 states. We're bringing them to a secure facility, but they're traumatized and terrified. Several asked for you specifically. Said they saw your interview yesterday and felt like you'd understand. Kane's chest tightened. I'm not a counselor. No, but you're someone who fought for them when nobody else would. That matters. Please. He looked at Eli, who was sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket Rita had given him. I'll be there in an hour, and I'm bringing someone with me. Eli looked up sharply. Me? If you're willing, these kids, they're gonna need to see that survival's possible, that there's life after this. You're proof of that. I don't know if I'm ready. Nobody's ever ready, but you're strong enough. I've seen it. Kane grabbed his jacket. You don't have to, but I think it might help. Them and you. Eli stood slowly. Okay, let's go. The drive to the federal facility took 90 minutes. Agent Hartfield met them at the door, her expression grave. Before you go in, you need to understand what you're about to see. These kids have been through hell. Some of them haven't spoken since we found them. Others won't stop crying. A few are violent because that's the only way they know how to process trauma. How young? Kane asked. Youngest is 9, oldest is 19, 47 total. Kane felt rage building again, hot and sharp. Castellano did this. Castellano and about 200 other people who were systematically destroying. But yes, he was the architect. Hartfield pushed open a door. They're in here. We've got counselors and medical staff. Your job is just to be present. Listen if they want to talk. That's it. The room was large, filled with cuts and blankets and quiet sobbing. Kane walked in slowly, Eli beside him. Every eye in the room turned toward them. A girl, maybe 14, stood up. You're him, the biker from TV. Yeah, I'm Marcus Kane. This is Eli. You really shut them down, the people who did this. We're shutting them down, every last one of them. The girl started crying, then another kid, then another. Soon half the room was in tears, but these weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief. An older boy, 17 or 18, approached Kane. My name's David. I was taken 3 years ago. Told myself every day that someone would come, that someone would care, but nobody did, until you. I'm sorry it took so long. Better late than never. David's voice cracked. My parents, do they know I'm alive? The FBI's notifying families now. If you've got parents out there, they're about to get the best news of their lives. David collapsed into Kane, sobbing into his chest. Kane held him, this kid he'd never met, and felt something break open inside him that had been sealed since Ricky died. He wasn't just holding David, he was holding all of them. Every kid who'd been failed by the system, by their families, by a world that looked away because the truth was too ugly to face. Eli was sitting with a group of younger kids talking quietly. Kane couldn't hear what he was saying, but whatever it was, they were listening, really listening, nodding, some even smiling. A counselor approached Kane. What you're doing here, it's making a difference. Some of these kids haven't responded to any of us, but the second you walked in, they opened up. Why? Because you're not pretending this is okay. You're not giving them clinical speeches about healing and time. You're just being honest. That's what they need right now, honesty. Kane spent 3 hours in that room listening to stories that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Stories of abduction, of basements and cages, of being sold and used and broken. But also stories of survival. Of small rebellions, of kids who held on to hope even when there was no rational reason to believe rescue was coming. When they finally left, Eli was quiet until they reached the parking lot. Then he threw up in a trash can, his whole body shaking. I'm sorry, Kane said. I shouldn't have brought you. No, Eli wiped his mouth. I needed to see that. Needed to know I wasn't alone, that other people survived what I survived. He straightened up. How do we make sure this never happens again? I don't know if we can, but we can make it harder. We can keep fighting, keep exposing, keep making noise. Then that's what we do. They drove back to the clubhouse where a surprise was waiting. Tommy met them at the door grinning. You're going to want to see this. In Chituin, this main room was packed, but not just with iron serpents. There were people from other clubs. The Devil's Disciples, the Road Warriors, even the Mongrels who'd been rivals for years. Patches from a dozen different clubs all standing together. A man stepped forward older than Kane with a gray beard down to his chest. Marcus Bull Henderson, president of the Devil's Disciples and one of the most respected bikers in the state. Kane, we heard what you did, what your club did, and we wanted you to know you don't stand alone. Whatever comes next, whoever tries to retaliate, they'll have to go through all of us. Kane felt his throat tighten. Bull, I appreciate it, but this ain't your fight. Like hell it ain't. You took on traffickers, man. People who hurt kids. That makes it everybody's fight. Bull looked around the room. We're putting aside old beefs, past problems, all of it, because what you did matters more than any of our petty territorial bullshit. So here's what we're proposing: a coalition. All the clubs in the region working together to keep eyes on our communities. Someone sees something suspicious, we report it. We investigate, we protect. You're talking about club cooperation on a level that's never been done, Snake said. Yeah, and maybe it's time. Maybe Kane here showed us that being 1%ers doesn't have to mean being criminals. It can mean being the 1% willing to do what others won't to protect the innocent. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Kane looked at his brothers, saw pride on their faces, and made a decision. All right, let's do it. But with rules, no vigilante justice. We find something, we report it to authorities. We work with the law, not against it. Agreed, Bull said. We don't need to be above the law, just need to be its eyes and ears in places they can't reach. They spent the next 2 hours hammering out details, communication protocols, territory agreements, how to handle disputes. By the time the other clubs left, the sun was setting and Kane was exhausted. Rita brought him dinner. Eat, you look like death warmed over. Feel like it too. But he ate because Rita would have force-fed him otherwise. Eli sat across from him. What happens now, to us, I mean, to me? Now you heal. You go to school, you build a life, you figure out who you are outside of survival mode. Kane set down his fork. Rita's agreed to be your legal guardian if you want. We've already started the paperwork. Eli's eyes went wide. Really, Ray? Really, you're part of this family now. We take care of our own. What about college I don't have money for? The club's got a fund for emergencies and opportunities. Your education counts as both. Kane smiled. Besides, we could use someone with a degree around here. Someone to keep us from making stupid legal mistakes. You want me to become a lawyer? I want you to become whatever you want to be. But yeah, a lawyer who understands our world wouldn't hurt. Eli laughed, and it was the first time Kane had heard genuine joy in the kid's voice. Okay, I'll think about it. The days that followed blurred together. More arrests, more news coverage. Kane gave testimony in closed-door sessions, watched as prosecutors built airtight cases against everyone involved. Castellano was denied bail. So were the judges, the police captain, the mayor. The system for once was working. Sharon Price called to tell him the interview had been viewed 50 million times across all platforms. You've become a symbol, Mr. Kane. People are using your story to push for reform. Stronger laws, better victim support, harsher penalties for traffickers. I'm nobody's symbol. I'm just a guy who did what needed doing. Maybe. But sometimes that's exactly what a symbol is. 2 weeks after the raid, Kane got a call from a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Kane, a woman's voice young, my name is Christina Castellano, Victor's daughter. Kane's hand tightened on the phone. What do you want? To apologize and to help. Her voice was shaking. I didn't know, I swear to God, I didn't know what my father was doing. I thought the company was legitimate. I thought. She broke down. The police showed me evidence, files, photos, things he did using my name, my credentials. I've been sick for days. Why are you calling me? Because I have access to accounts my father kept hidden. Money he stashed in offshore banks. Millions of dollars. Blood money from what he did. And I want to give it to the victims. All of it. But I don't know how to do that without the government seizing it for bureaucratic nonsense. I need help. Kane was quiet, thinking. You understand, if this is some kind of trick, if you're working for your father's associates, I'm not, I swear, I just want to make this right, as much as I can. I'll have someone reach out. A lawyer. If you're legit, we'll figure out how to get that money where it needs to go. Thank you, Christina's voice broke again. I know it doesn't fix anything, but maybe it helps. Kane called Agent Hartfield and relayed the conversation. She was skeptical, but agreed to look into it. 3 days later, she confirmed that Christina was telling the truth. $17 million in hidden accounts, all of it traceable to the trafficking operation. They worked with a team of lawyers to create a victims fund money that would go directly to survivors for therapy, education, housing. Whatever they needed to rebuild their lives. Christina signed over every penny and then disappeared from public life entirely. A month after everything started, Kane stood in the clubhouse looking at a wall they had dedicated to Ricky. Photos of his son at different ages smiling, living, being young and hopeful. Underneath was a plaque that read, Richard James Kane. He saw injustice and refused to look away. His courage saved lives he never knew existed. Eli came to stand beside him. He'd be proud of you. I'd rather have him back. I know, but since you can't, maybe knowing his death meant something helps. Maybe. Kane put his arm around Eli's shoulders. How you doing? Really? Better, the nightmares are less frequent, and Rita's making me see a therapist, which is annoying but helpful. Eli smiled. I enrolled in community college for the spring, thinking about criminal justice or social work, something where I can help other kids who've been through this. That's good. That's real good. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Eli said something that caught Kane off guard. You know what the weirdest part is? I came to your bar to return a ring. That's it. Just trying to do one small decent thing. And it turned into all this. Sometimes small decent things have big consequences. That's the secret nobody tells you. Every choice matters. Every action ripples out further than you can see. Kane squeezed his shoulder. You chose decency when you could have chosen to keep the ring or sell it or throw it away. That choice saved lives. So did yours, when you chose to protect me instead of handing me over. Yeah, I guess we both made good choices that day. Rita called from the kitchen that dinner was ready. The club gathered around tables pushed together, passing plates, family-style telling stories and laughing and living. Kane looked around at these faces, people who'd chosen each other, who'd bled together and fought together and survived together. Big Tommy was teaching Eli how to play poker. Snake was arguing with Mitch about the best way to rebuild an engine. Rita was organizing a charity ride for trafficking survivors, already fielding calls from other clubs wanting to participate. This was what Ricky had wanted, not revenge, not violence, just people giving a damn. People choosing to see the ugliness in the world and refusing to accept it as inevitable. Kane's phone buzzed. A text from Agent Hartfield. Final arrest made today, 127 total. Network completely dismantled. Couldn't have done it without you. He texted back, you would have gotten there eventually. Maybe, but eventually means more victims. You made sure eventually came sooner. That matters. Kane pocketed his phone and joined his family at the table. Eli was laughing at something Tommy said, his face open and young and unburdened for the first time since Kane had met him. Rita was piling food on his plate, mothering him the way she'd once mothered Ricky. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There'd be trials to testify at trauma, to process nights when the weight of everything they'd seen would feel unbearable. But they'd face it together, this patchwork family of broken people who'd learned to be each other's strength. Snake raised a beer. To Ricky Kane, and to every kid we saved because he had the guts to try. To Ricky, the room echoed. Kane raised his glass, feeling the weight of his son's memory settle around him like a familiar jacket. Not painful anymore, just present, a reminder of what mattered and why. Eli caught his eye across the table and mouthed, "Thank you." Kane nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Kane walked out to the garage where Ricky's old bike sat covered in a tarp. He pulled it off slowly, running his hand over the chrome and leather. The bike was beautiful, perfectly maintained, waiting for a rider who'd never come back. "I did it," Kane said to the empty air. "I got the bastards who killed you, all of them. And I made sure other kids won't go through what those victims did. I made sure your death meant something." His voice broke. "I hope that's enough. I hope wherever you are, you know that I tried, that I finally did right by you." The garage door opened behind him. Eli stood there, hesitant. "Sorry, couldn't sleep. Heard you talking. Just saying goodnight to my son. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think people can be forgiven for not speaking up when they should have, for staying silent because they were scared?" Kane looked at this kid who'd survived so much and still worried about his own culpability. "Yeah, I think silence out of fear is human. It's what you do after you find your voice that matters. You found yours, Eli. You spoke up when it counted. That's what I'll remember. I could have spoken up sooner, could have saved other kids if I'd been braver. You were a child being abused. You don't get to carry that guilt. The only people responsible are the adults who failed to protect you and the monsters who hurt you. That's it. That's the whole list." Eli nodded slowly, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "Thank you for saying that and for everything else. You already thanked me multiple times. You can stop now." "I don't think I can. You gave me a family, a future, a reason to believe good people still exist." Eli's voice was fierce. "So I'm gonna keep thanking you every day if I have to." Kane pulled him into a hug, this kid who'd stumbled into his bar with a ring and changed everything. "Then I'm going to keep telling you you're worth it. Every day if I have to." They stood there in the garage, two people who'd lost almost everything, finding something like peace in the wreckage. The next morning, Kane woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the sound of Rita banging pots in the kitchen. He got up, showered, dressed in his club vest with the iron serpent's patch prominent on the back. In the main room, the TV was showing footage from the night before Victor Castellano being transferred to a federal supermax prison. No bail, no deal, no mercy, just justice, slow and certain and absolute. Snake handed Kane coffee. "Heard from Bull this morning. 3 different clubs already reported suspicious activity in their areas. We're making a difference, boss." "We're starting to. Long way to go yet." "Yeah, but we're going there together. That's what counts." The doorbell rang. Rita answered it and came back with a package. "For you, no return address." Kane opened it carefully, mindful of potential threats. Inside was a small wooden box. He opened it to find Ricky's original Iron Serpent's patch, the one he'd worn before he died, and a note in handwriting he didn't recognize. "Your son was a hero. Thank you for finishing what he started. From a mother whose daughter came home because of you." Kane pressed the patch to his chest, feeling the fabric worn soft from years of wear, and let himself cry. Not desperate tears, not hopeless tears, just the kind of tears that come when grief finally starts to transform into something bearable. Eli appeared at his shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah, kid, I think I finally am." 3 months later, Shane stood on a stage in front of 500 people at a fundraiser for trafficking survivors. The room was packed with bikers, cops, social workers, politicians, survivors, people who'd decided that apathy was no longer acceptable. He looked out at the crowd and saw Bull Henderson and his club in the front row. Saw Agent Hartfield and Sharon Price sitting together. Saw Rita and Eli flanked by Big Tommy and Snake and Mitch and the rest of his family. "I'm not going to stand here and pretend I'm comfortable with speeches," Kane said into the microphone. "But I've been asked to say something, so here it is. 2 years ago, my son died trying to expose evil. I spent those 2 years drowning in grief and guilt. And then a kid walked into my bar with a ring and reminded me that choosing to care even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, is the only thing that separates us from the monsters." He paused, gathering his thoughts. We can't save everyone. We can't fix everything. But we can refuse to look away. We can make noise. We can fight like hell for the people who can't fight for themselves. That's what Ricky did. That's what Eli did. That's what all of you are doing by being here tonight. So keep fighting, keep caring, and never ever let anyone convince you that one person can't make a difference. The room erupted in applause. Kane stepped off the stage and was immediately surrounded by people wanting to shake his hand, thank him, share their own stories. He listened to each one, gave each person his full attention, because that's what Ricky would have done. When the event finally ended and they were walking to their bikes, Eli said, "You were good up there, natural." I was terrified. Couldn't tell. Eli climbed on the back of Kane's bike. Where to now? Kane looked at his club. His family gathered in the parking lot under the stars. Looked at the open road stretching ahead into darkness and possibility. Looked at this kid he'd chosen to protect and who'd ended up saving him right back. Now, Kane started. The engine felt it rumble to life beneath him. Now we go home. And tomorrow we wake up and we do it all again. We keep fighting. We keep protecting. We keep being the 1% who refuse to accept evil as inevitable. Sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also the only thing worth doing. They rode through the night, a convoy of bikes carrying people who'd learned that brotherhood wasn't about blood or birth. It was about choice, about showing up when things got hard, about refusing to abandon each other even when the world said you should. The road stretched on endless and uncertain, but Kane wasn't afraid anymore. He had his family. He had his purpose. And he had Eli living proof that small acts of decency could topple empires of evil. That ring, tarnished and forgotten, had become a key that unlocked more than a container. It had unlocked redemption, justice, and a future none of them had imagined possible. Kane glanced in his mirror at Eli, saw the kid's face tilted toward the stars, and thought about how a single choice to do the right thing had saved them both. The iron serpents roared down the highway, their engines harmonizing into something that sounded like freedom. And Kane knew with absolute certainty that this patchwork family, this impossible victory, this hard-won peace was exactly what Ricky would have wanted. Not revenge, not perfection. Just people choosing to be better, to fight harder, to love fiercer than the darkness trying to consume them. And in the end, that choice made all the difference.